Who are you? And why are you in my garage? Oh! You saw the headline about what the Frazer Institute just did about taxes. And PP the loser, yeah, Pierre Poilievre's the loser. He's come out and said tax rates are too high. And people are going crazy. So, I'm going to bring a little information, facts, and some calmness to the situation. Because I'm sick and tired of people saying the liberal agenda, no liberal agenda, the conservative agenda, well, there is one, but when they're in power and they're running the government, it's the federal government, provincial government, municipal government. Now, except for here in Alberta where we got ourselves an actual Nazi destroying our healthcare system, people are complaining about it, going to vote conservative federally because of what the provincial government's doing. Make no sense. But we're here to talk about taxes. Frazer Institute, which is a conservative institute paid for by corporations and rich people to come out with research that says taxes are too high and they gotta go down. Well, let me tell you something. We live in a great country, and without taxation, sucks. It's gonna suck. But this is the thing. People have forgotten that they have to join PAC committees and lobby the government for good things. And all people do is complain, and they go online and they type, but they don't actually do anything. They don't meet with ministers, they don't meet with MLAs, they don't go to political parties, they don't actually hear what the guy is saying, because PP's a loser, man. Because he lost his seat. That's why he's a loser. I've never met him personally. I think he's a loser personally. Like, in real life. Never had a job. Never done anything. Loser. But that's just my opinion. He could be a great guy in person. But, he lost his seat. He's a loser. Come on, conservatives, move on. Get someone better. Even someone like Brian Mulroney, who brought in the GST, which I lobbied against. I cannot tell you how much I lobbied against GST. GST was the worst thing ever. Brian Mulroney, conservative, brought it in. Capital gains were reduced. Gretchen did that. And I was a big time conservative back then, but I was like, I like this guy. He reduced capital gains. So, where are we today? 2025. So I wanted to do a little comparison for people out there, because I keep getting this, Canada is broke. Canada is not broke. Canada is broken. Canada is not broken. All these people that say this are whiners and complainers and want to go back to some sort of fantasy that doesn't exist anymore for whatever reason. Now, whatever your fantasy is, good on you. I'm glad you got some fantasy. I got my own fantasies, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because it involves bulldozers. So, how would I explain to the general public what the tax rates were in 1980 compared to 2025? Guess what? Couldn't get it. I spent a half an hour trying to figure out the brackets. I finally dug up my tax return from 1980. Yeah, I got one. And yeah, I have them all ever filed since I started working. 1978. I have every tax return I've ever done. That's right, I have every one of them. I know, kind of crazy, right? So I had to dig that up, and I cannot believe I saved a booklet from 1980. The next booklet I got saved is 1996, but for some odd reason that 1980 booklet was in there. Maybe it was because it was my first real year making anything. Okay? I know I was only making $3.65 an hour, but damn, that was my first year of really ever making anything. So I saved the booklet for some weird reason. I don't know why, but I did. So, let's do a comparison. If you're complaining about your tax rate and you listen to this Frazer Institute bull, never seen such a 42.5% of your income's going to the federal government. Total lie, If that's all you want to hear, see you later. But if you actually want to know what the tax rates are in 1980 compared to 2025, let me show you something. First of all, there's two things that are happening in 1980 that just blow your mind. One, the top rate was 70% tax. The federal rate was 70%. 70. So if you made over 200 grand in 1980, which was, you could buy two houses, almost two houses in Calgary for 200 grand. 107,000 was the average price in 1980. How do I know this? I sell real estate for a living, have access to all the stats. You could almost buy two houses if you made 200 grand. Whew. But if you made over 200 grand, tax rate was 70%. Now, what was the tax rate up to 200 grand? A lot higher than what you think. But anyways, let's figure it out, okay? So, 1980. Are you ready? This is what the top rate in 1980 was, 70% on income over $200,000. So in that we're going to use $500,000 a year income just to make it easy for round numbers, okay? So you'd always be in that top bracket, because the top bracket today, you got to make over $354,000 before you're in the top bracket. You follow me? So I used 500,000. You made 500,000 in 1980. Let me tell you, you're flying Ward Air. And if you want to know what Ward Air is, look it up. Best airline I have ever flown on, ever. Period. Haven't flown anywhere. I have never flown as good as Ward Air since I flew Ward Air in 81, I think it was. Anyways, so capital gain of 500,000 plus income of 500,000, 1980. So, what was my tax rate in 1980? Well, 70% over 200 grand, but your personal exemption was $3,400. That's right, $3,400, no tax. Your tax rate would be, are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? $280,200 federal. That's not counting what you pay to the provinces. Okay? That's your federal tax rate. $280,000 on 500. Woo-wee! Also, if you had a $500,000 capital gain in 1980, what would you pay compared to today? Because people complain about this all the time. I have no understanding of this. Well, got to know a little bit about capital gains in Canada. Until 1972, there was no capital gain. If you had a capital gain in 1971 of $100,000, which would have been massive, that would be like having a $700,000 capital gain today. No tax. But we had inheritance taxes. That's right. Inheritance taxes. Your principal residence that you live in today that's tax-free when you sell it, even if you die, if you live in there, it's tax-free. There's no tax. And there will never be any tax on principal residence in Canada, no matter how much the right-wing nutcases and the tax groups want you to believe this. It'll never happen. There's a reason for it coming up later. So there was an inheritance tax, but there was no capital gains tax. So the government went, we'll bring in a capital gains tax and get rid of the inheritance tax and the gift tax. That's why lotto winners don't pay any tax in Canada. You go to the casino and win $10,000. No tax. You win $1,000. It doesn't matter. You can gift any amount of money to anyone tax-free. Lottos are tax-free. Everything's tax-free. Principal residence, tax-free. But they brought in capital gains. The capital gains tax was basically, it's kind of like, it is complicated. I mean, back then, this is why the lawyers and the accountants must have got a hold of the government and created jobs. Because it took me a while to figure this out. But what it would basically work out to is a $500,000 capital gain in 1980 that you're going to claim on your taxes. $275,000 in federal tax. There would have been provincial taxes. Okay? That's the federal. Whew! More than half. Wow. And people went out and bought revenue properties and started professional corporations in 1982 and 83 and 84 all across this country. People went out and bought revenue property, blah, 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 and the tax rate was 55%. 55%. There was a small little exemption in there because people are going to go, blah, 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 blah. It works out to 55%. Okay? We're trying to be general here and not specific to the penny. Because, there's this and that and the other thing. You could move that up a little bit, move it down a little bit. There's always those silver-tongued litigators always have a way to try and save you money. But that's basically what it was. So you would pay $275,000 in taxes on a $500,000 capital gain and $280,200 on income of $500,000. Now let's jump to 2025. Oh, we're taxed so much the world's coming to an end. It's just terrible. It's higher, isn't it? My capital gains tax on $500,000 is going to be 66%. Wrong. People don't even understand. That's gone, by the way. But the 3363 was 33% tax-free, 60% income. You claim as income. That wasn't the tax rate. But if I have to listen to one more person tell me that, I'm just not going to talk to them about it anymore. So what's the tax rate? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's figure it out. Now, there's a couple things happen in 2025 you got to know. One, the Alberta tax rate. We have a new bracket, 8%. That's right, our dumbass government got rid of the 10% up to 135. Now they have 8% up to 60, and then 10% up to 135, and then 12%, 14%. Give me a break. Just give me a break. We got deficits. But anyways, $500,000 income in 2025. What's your tax rate? Is it $280,000? No, it's $140,329. Did you hear me? $140,329 in federal tax on $500,000 of salaried income or self-employed income. That's half. The federal tax rate is half of what it was in 1980 today. Not good enough for you? Not good enough for you, eh? It should be zero, right? Capital gains tax. Well, the capital gains tax got changed by Prime Minister John Chrétien. I was a big-time conservative back when John Chrétien was Prime Minister, and I was doing everything in my power not to make sure he ever got elected, but he got in and did something, and this is when I started to flip and actually look at information, instead of just voting for a mushroom because it's conservative, like Pierre Polly of the mushroom. He changed the capital gains tax from 55% of the gain to 50% tax-free, unlimited. You have $1 billion capital gain, $500 million is tax-free. The other $500 million, or in this case $250,000 on a $500,000 gain, is income. So if you have no income, you pay a little less. But let's just assume, it's going to go through at the higher rate. Okay? And that works out to $82,500. So on a $500,000 capital gain in 2025, you'll pay $82,500 in federal income tax. There's provincial tax on top of that. I'm just talking federal here, okay? I don't want to mucky it up. Federal. $275,000 in 1980. $82,500 in 2025. Wow. Is that not a tax reduction? Is that not good enough for you? I guess it's not good enough for you because we got GST brought in by Brian Mulroney, the conservatives, and every time rich people want to lower taxes, you should bring in a sales tax. Well, sales taxes only benefit the rich. It's all paid by us poor people, middle class people, maybe a little more than middle class people, but it's all paid by the lower 3/4 of the population. It's not paid by the 1%ers or the 10%ers. They don't pay it. As a percentage, you think the 1% pay 1% of GST? The 1% pay 0.1% of GST. That's why rich people want sales taxes. So, in recap, taxes have done nothing but go down since 1980. And our federal debt to GDP has gone nowhere but up. It doesn't matter who's in. Oh, you can complain it was conservatives that did this, the liberals did this, the conservatives did this, the liberals did this. I mean, I could talk to you just for end of what Stephen Harper did when he was prime minister for 9 years. Like you could just go on and on. Oh, Trudeau did this, and Clark did this, and Mulroney did this, and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. This is where we're at. So, here's what's got to happen in the future. Taxes are going to go up, even though the federal government's reduced the minimum tax rate from 15% to 14% as of July 1, 2025, and the provincial government of Alberta has lowered the minimum rate of 10% down to 8% if you make under $60,000 a year, and the personal exemption has been raised to $15,000. It was $3,400 in 1980. So there you go. Now you know what the tax rates are, and it just doesn't matter. And I hate to tell you this, my entire working life, because, I'm getting close to retirement, taxes have gone nothing but down. Down, 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 down. The only thing that really hurt was GST. I pay a lot of GST. A lot of my money that I make goes out in GST. That's why I hate GST. I just hate it. Rich people should just pay more. Not 70% tax rate. That was a little crazy, don't you think? But they should just pay more. So thank you for tuning in for this educational. This is what tax rates in Canada really are. You want to fix the government, you got to change spending and how they're spending it. Because let me tell you, the $2 billion the federal government gave the city of Calgary for solar is turned into the boondoggle of all boondoggles. But the people that are benefiting that are the solar install companies. The people that install it, charging twice, 2.5, 3 times what it was when I did it 5 years ago. Now that's a boondoggle. So let's get on out there, join your PAC committee, have a good time, support your MLA, whoever it is, and please, don't vote for PP the loser. Come on. Let's get somebody different in there. The guy lost. He's a loser. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the future.